Good afternoon. Kent Askren, Kansas Farm Bureau, Natural Resources. The legislative session is continuing to move along with several water issues that we're following and providing input on. I'll just try to bring you up to date on a few of those issues. First and foremost is probably the bill that's getting the most attention is the multi-year water flex account bill, Senate Bill 272. That bill remains in the Senate Ag Committee and is currently being worked. There have been several revisions to the bill since I last addressed you. Probably most important to the revisions are the removing of the Section 1 dealing with the division of water rights. That portion has been taken out of the bill and will be picked up in another bill, Senate Bill 148, which the committee intends to work yet this session. Language to help clarify the base water right priority utilization has actually been added to the bill also. This would allow that if you do take your base water right and suspend its use for a multi-year flex account term permit, that you can be assured that the seniority of that base water right will be carried forward and implemented in the event that your flex term permit is restricted from usage by order of the chief engineer. For instance, if you have a 100 acre-foot water right and you have a multi-year flex account of, say, 400 acre-feet, and you're using that flex account and minimum desirable stream flow, for example, is administered, well, then you can be sure that at least to the extent of that base water right, that 100 acre-feet, that your water right will retain the priority of the base right and not fall back to the priority of the term multi-year flex account permit. That'll be important for many people, I believe. Also, one really critical omission that was in the bill that has been picked up on is that the 500% of the net irrigation requirement, which is one of the quantity options being offered, that 500% were left out of the original bill. And so that has been placed in the bill, and I think obviously that is a much needed catch of an error. The last thing that's still being considered in the bill by the committee would be an amendment that would allow the 2011 overuse of a base water right that was in a drought term permit, allow that overuse to be excused, sort of as a drought relief clause, if you will, if and only if the holder of the water right is going to roll that drought term permit over into a multi-year flex account. This is something that we'll just have to see how the committee feels about this, but there were some that felt very strongly about this, and we were very concerned that this could hold up the bill. We feel like this is a decent compromise, and we will continue to watch this closely as the bill moves forward. The last thing on the flex accounts, Wichita testified last week in favor of the bill, but they did have some concerns about how water was being pumped from the Equus beds down to levels that would put their aquifer storage and recovery project sort of in a bind. And I think that they need to work out the details of how that would be administered, but I don't believe that that in any way should prohibit or slow down a multi-year flex account bill going through and helping out the entire state, not just any specific area of the state. This is a bill that can really help us statewide. So we'll keep in tune with that issue also as it unfolds. Next, I'd like to turn to House Bill 2516, the water banking bill. We'll be providing testimony on that, in fact, tomorrow in the House Ag and Natural Resources Committee, and it proposes to allow the changes in the bill of existing law. It proposes to allow water bank charters to become permanent. Right now, there's not a provision in the law for that. And we think that that is a good idea because anybody who is interested in leasing water and enrolling or utilizing the water banking program is looking at making a fairly substantial investment, either in equipment or water rights or whatever. And if they don't have some assurity that this is going to be a permanent bank, they're less likely to make that investment. So we think that's a good provision in the bill. The bill also allows for a 5-year review of the charter to come up. And we think that that's a good idea because we think that it's always good to step back and evaluate and look and see how the program is performing. Not not in the sense of determining whether it should continue or not, but whether it can actually be improved. So we think that's a good thing. And it also removes the current restriction in law that only 2 water banks can exist at one time. We think by getting rid of that, this opens up the option to utilize water banking on a statewide basis. We think this is a good program that can help out producers anywhere in the state where there is a need for water banking. We won't see that statewide in all likelihood, but I think that it at least opens up the opportunity for it to be there where it's needed. We'll also be providing testimony on Senate Bill 310 later this week, the LEMA, Local Enhanced Management Area, which is sort of a quasi-effort of the Intensive Groundwater Use Control Area Act. Only the thing about LEMA is that rather than to have the chief engineer come in and hold hearings and assign a corrective control to a problem that is determined to exist, this allows locals to evaluate, come up with a remedy themselves, hand that off to the chief engineer to then go through the normal IGUCA process with the big stipulation that whatever they get back cannot exceed what the locals established and developed in their LEMA plan. So we think that local control, that enhancement of local control, again, is a good thing and should really help in these overdeveloped or overappropriated areas of our state. Last thing I'll talk about today is the last week the Kansas Water Authority was in town. They had a large agenda. This was their legislative meeting, and they spent considerable time actually going over to the Capitol and visiting with elected officials to express education and concern over issues that they're dealing with. For a whole list of the agenda items that they talked about, you can go to their website, www.kwo.org, and you can see last week's agenda items. The last thing that I wanted to point out about their meeting, though, was in the director's report. He did announce that in 2012, the Ogallala Aquifer Advisory Committee, which met several times in 2011, will again begin meeting in late spring. And the initial topics that they intend to discuss include the Farm Bill, limited irrigation / insurance, water right enforcement, and the outcomes of the 2012 legislative initiatives. So with that, I'll close for today, and we'll keep you updated as more information becomes available.